Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BJJ Foxcast. I'm your host, Alex Martinez, and today we have a special guest, my good friend, Julissa Lizette, and we brought back Alex the Tojo Cray.
Hey.
So welcome, guys. Welcome
by
to the show.
popular demand.
By popular demand. Actually, a lot of the feedback I get is by popular demand. It's awful. Like, I'm going to have to cut you in on this stupid
All one
thing.
person in Italy and
We have Italy, we have Ireland, France, Germany, Brazil, and Mexico listening.
Yeah.
So
most of those are just people with VPNs. Let's be real.
I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah,
Listen,
I don't
let me
care.
live in my own little world.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Julissa,
cool.
welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. Sit a little bit closer or
Yes.
pull the mic to you. That's fine too.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm a leaner.
That's
so
okay. Yeah, you can lean back and pull that to you.
Like a chola.
So listen, I wanted to get you on the podcast because I think your story is one that a lot of people would like to hear. Tell me. Well, let's start a little bit where you're from, and and give me a little backstory on you.
Of course. Okay. So I'm born and raised Chandler, Arizona.
Okay.
So went to high school at Corona del Sol, and then my dad is from Guadalupe. So he's born and raised in Arizona. But
Yeah.
my mom is from a little farm town in Mesquite, New Mexico, and then she moved out here because of my dad. But yeah, so I started.
How did they meet?
You know what? I don't really know because my dad, he's kind of dramatic. So, like, he always has, like, a new story. But from my understanding...
We just lost a listener, by the way.
Oh, my God. My dad.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. You got it?
Oh, no. Hold on.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
Yep.
From my understanding, I think they met when my dad was a bouncer and my mom was going out, to, like, the disco club
Okay.
back in the day.
Right on.
I think. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, and so am I telling you how I got into jiu-jitsu?
No, just a little backstory. Yeah, so let's talk about that. How did you find jiu-jitsu?
Okay, so Daniel Rodriguez was the one who introduced me. So Daniel and I, we grew up like literally in the same neighborhood. We went to elementary, middle school, high school. And then my senior year, I knew I wasn't going to play softball in college. And so I was like, okay, well, I hate going to the gym. And so I was kind of looking for, something to like occupy my time.
Yeah.
And then Daniel Rodriguez, he would sit behind me in first hour, and it was Miss Glick's class, and he would always eat so healthy.
Yeah.
And, I'd be eating like, Pop-Tarts and Frappuccinos, and then, I would turn like behind me. I'm like, why do you eat so healthy? And then he's like, I do jiu-jitsu. And I was like, what the fuck is jiu-jitsu?
And this is this dumb little white belt, Daniel Rodriguez.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, Daniel Rodriguez is a black belt, I believe, under Marcio Andre, right? Is that where he got his black belt?
Well, I think Gustavo got it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gustavo. Okay.
Yeah.
But does he train with Marcio, or does he train
Yes,
with? Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to pick you up, and I'm going to take you to jiu-jitsu. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And this was when Paul was still at his first academy or whatever on Elliott and Dobson. Do you guys know?
The
I
karate
wasn't there
school.
for that.
Yeah, I missed
Yeah,
that.
I missed that. You were like the first wave.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just remember, not knowing what to expect. I was kind of like a girly girl, but I was a tomboy because I
Yeah.
played softball. And so I just walked in, and I'm like, what the hell is this? There's like Aaron Wilson, Jose Bufanda, Brandon Walker, like and then Jenny Larson was the only girl there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So Jenny Larson kind of kept, took me under her wing. And so I started like, just doing like the basics with her. And I mean, to be honest, at first I was like kind of immature,
Yeah.
like
all. Yeah.
literally I'm like.
How old were you then?
I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
18.
So of course you were.
And so, it took me a little bit to get used to it and like get past the whole like laughing and uncomfortable like positions and stuff. But then I kind of got addicted, and
Yeah.
then that's kind of where it started.
That's great.
And then I don't know how soon after that, Paul moved into his space on Alma School in the 60.
Yep.
But it was not the place is right now, but where the PT is.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it was just like a
two
right
doors
down.
down.
It's
Yeah.
on the other side of the PT.
Yeah.
I don't even think there's anything in there. It was like a cabinet shop for like a little bit. I don't know.
Oh.
Everything there is a front as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned.
Literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, then that was the next place, and it was fun.
Yeah.
I think that's where I met you guys, or was it when we were at the next
Nope.
next door?
No, we met there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were at the small one?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
thought,
where I
I thought
started.
you came in right as we went into the other one.
No, I actually I Googled Jiu Jitsu in Mesa, and I did 2 classes at Rough House. That used to be where Os physical therapy was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I did 2 classes there with Gerson, and then I went over to see Paul like after like a business trip.
Wait, you're telling me you took a class with Gerson and you didn't stay there?
Well, it wasn't his school though. It wasn't his school. I get a pass on that one. I get a
love
pass.
Gerson's teaching.
Plus, he was a brown belt, dude. No, I'm just
Loser.
kidding. No, but yeah. So I went over off a business trip. On my way home, I drove up and went to check it out because I saw the light was on, and you guys were getting ready for pans, so it was like people getting murdered in there. It was like crazy, like how
fun.
Paul used to do the sprints and the wheelbarrow races, and
I miss that.
yeah. So
every time we do it, people don't show up. 'Cause
yeah, they
everyone's
quit.
Soft.
They
No,
quit.
I was in like insanely like good shape because of that.
Yeah. So tell me about your relationship with Paul Nava. How did that develop? I mean, I know obviously you met him through Daniel, and you started going to class, but you guys have a really close relationship.
Yes, I always tell people Paul and Leslie are like my second parents.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what brought us closer, or like at the beginning, was like he said that I reminded him of his daughter.
Oh, cool.
And so I think his daughter lives in California. But yeah, and then obviously like when I went through like my whole cancer journey, Paul and Leslie were there for me, like, the entire time. So I don't know, we just created like this really awesome relationship, and I love them dearly and I respect them a lot.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. So
people.
even before I started the podcast, I reached out to Paul. I was like, hey, I'm going to start this podcast. I want to get you on it. And Paul, crickets. I know he's on his phone all the time, so I know he saw it, right? So crickets. And then I hit him up again. I'm like, hey, man, we just recorded one episode. That's the one you and I did. I'd like to get you on the next one. Crickets. Third one, crickets. Nothing. And then it's like 10:30 at night, and he texts me, hey, I think I'm ready to be on the podcast. I'm like, now? It's 10:30 at night. You know what I mean? So he's like, no.
Funny.
So he says October 8th, and I'm like, gotta go into a wedding. He's like, what wedding? My kid's wedding. So
Can't skip it.
Yeah, still trying to make it work, but yeah. So anyway, but yeah, Paul's he's always been really really fond of you. I mean, obviously, right? You guys have been through a lot together. But so did you ever compete as a white belt or when you got your blue belt?
Yeah, so I did a couple tournaments. Didn't go how I wanted, but like I don't know, just going out there and like everyone like cheering for you, you kind of just black out. I think everyone kind of goes through that.
Yep.
But training would go great, and then as soon as like you get on the mats, it's just like you forget everything.
There's something that just happens, yeah.
Literally, and I definitely do want to compete more. It's just right now, it's just not the right time. But I did do my first tournament as a blue belt last year. I think it was like 8 years since I competed.
Yeah.
But that was honestly like the first time I felt like clear. Like I went in with like a clear headspace. Like, the girl that I went against, she was freaking amazing. Alexis Frederick, I think her name is. Like, girl competes all the time. Like, she's really, really good. So I'm like, all right, like this is a good first match to get back into. But, I learned a lot, and I was just happy that like I didn't black out. Like I knew what was going on the entire time, and then she called me, I think like an Americana, and then I was like, I'm gonna tap.
It happens. Yeah, it happens.
I'm like, I don't need to prove anything. Like this was enough.
Yeah.
So it was just like something to like dip my toes in, and now I definitely want to. It's just I'm not training a lot.
Right. Yeah. So I think you and I met. Like you were still. I mean, you were really young when we met. I don't think you were 21 yet. And
maybe like 20.
Yeah, maybe 20.
Yeah.
And I remember, you would come in, and there was a group of you. Like the women's team kind of grew, and then it kind of shrank, and then it grew and shrank. But you were always the consistent one.
Yeah.
And
I was
then
like addicted to
it.
Like, sometimes I would train like twice a day, 3 to 4 times a week. Like I wish I had that time now.
Yeah.
Take it for granted, right?
Yeah.
I know.
How often are you training now?
Yeah, Julissa. How often?
Nava, get on the phone, buddy.
I think in the last month, I think I went like once.
Okay.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
That's probably like the longest I've gone without training. So.
Really? Okay. But I mean, have you been consistent, like somewhat, and then
like at least
decently
like
near future?
2-3 times I was at least training like a couple months ago.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, it gets the blood flowing. Yeah. So what was it about competition? Like I got sucked in early in competition because Nava, I don't think he gave us a choice back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was
Very
like,
little,
hey, you're signing up for this. I'm like, all right. What was it that wanted that? I mean, obviously you have a athletic background with softball, and was it that just you needed something competitive to get that urge out, or what was it?
Honestly, I think it's just kind of putting yourself out there in like situations, and I don't know. I don't even know what I was thinking at the time. I just wanted to sign up and then see what kind of happened there. But, one of these days I would love to win gold. That would be like my ideal. I think that's everyone's like ideal goal.
Yeah. No one's aiming for second place.
There's only one happy person at the end of the tournament.
You're last, right? But yeah, just kind of getting that experience, and it takes a lot of guts getting out there.
Yeah.
And I always tell people when they get upset about losing or whatever, it's like, dude, like you should be proud of yourself for like at least stepping out on the mats and like, doing that, because a lot of people don't even have that in them.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you learn a lot about yourself. I mean, honestly, like I tell people, like jiu-jitsu for me, it peeled me open, and I found out like who I really was thanks to it. And I was much older than you when I started. Much older than you when I started. I think I had kids older than you when I started. Oh. But it literally. I mean, people talk about them, jiu-jitsu saving their life, weight-wise and stuff like that. And yes, it did all of that. But for me, it was more of a mental shift. Like my whole life changed because of it. Like my career, everything changed. So it's really cool. Yeah. But so let's fast forward just a little bit. And I'm going to jump around a little bit because, I kind of followed like, your whole journey. And we can go as deep into this or not as you choose. But yeah, right on. So shortly after, I started, you were kind of phasing yourself out. You had other stuff going on in your life. You were traveling a ton, which was awesome. And then all of a sudden we get news that Julissa has cancer. Tell me about how that started and how you got the news. And I know I'm getting choked up just thinking about this. No. So because I come from a family that's dealt with that. So how did that, just kind of tell me how that all transpired. Okay.
So back in July of 2014, I went to Europe and I went to this music festival called Tomorrowland. And if you guys don't know what Tomorrowland is, like I highly suggest to like YouTube it.
Okay.
It's freaking insane. Well, anyways, first day I met my Aussie lover, whatever. Dug my closet.
We'll go into that later.
Yeah, we'll go into that later. But he's a big part of my journey. So, So, like after I came back from Europe, we started doing long distance, and that's kind of like when the symptoms like kind of started like appearing.
Yeah. And what kind of symptoms?
So I had like this nagging cough, like a smoker's cough, and I don't smoke.
Yeah.
I smoke weed, but like I don't smoke cigarettes.
Right, yeah.
And so like, whenever it would be on like FaceTime or whatever, he would always tell me like, you need to go get that checked out. And I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm not really too concerned about it. But then I would tell him, like, I would just, like, start itching my legs, like, my feet and my legs, like, all the time. And then I started, like, getting, like, these circular, like, scars. And they kind of look like ringworm.
Oh, okay.
So, like, these started, like, appearing all over my legs. And, like, I just kind of brush it off, put tea tree oil, whatever. And then when I went to Australia the first time, the cough started, like, progressively getting worse. And so that was back in November of 2014. And then I went to like a general practice doctor or whatever, and he just gave me antibiotics. He just thought it was a cold. So with the antibiotics, the cough went away, and back to living my little life. And then back in January of 2015, the cough came back. And so that's when we kind of decided, like, okay, I want to move to Australia for a whole year, do the whole like travel work visa. And so I got approved for that. And then I moved to Australia March of 2015. I was still having this cough. And then, my legs were like a mess. And then, it was from like March 2015 to like, several weeks later, these other symptoms started approaching, like shortness of breath. And, the cough was getting worse. And then what really, like, threw me off was that, like, I would take a shower at night, go to bed, and then I would wake up in, like, a puddle of sweat.
Oh, wow.
And so then he was like, you really need to go get that checked out. And so I went to the doctor again at the same place, but a different doctor. And she ordered me a CAT scan. So I got that done beneath, like, the building below. And she was just like kind of feeling like my lymph nodes and, just asking questions. And so as soon as we left, I think it was like 5 minutes till they closed. And then she said, like, I really need you to come back, like, right now. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Not knowing what it could be. I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. And so we both drove back, and then I'm sitting in her chair, and then she's like explaining to me like what she thinks I have. And then she said, what I think you have is Hodgkin's lymphoma. And like, me being young and naive, like I I just know about the cancers like cervical cancer, breast
Yeah.
cancer, like prostate. Like I don't know what Hodgkin's lymphoma is.
Yeah.
And so when she said that, I was like, what is that? And she's like, it's a blood cancer. And I was like, I just started like bursting. I'm like, how can this happen? I'm 22. Like I'm young.
Healthy.
Like I'm healthy.
You're an athlete.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I didn't eat the best, whatever. Like all the processed sugar. Like I still don't know how I got that, but like I'm assuming like the shitty food that I eat.
You think so? Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And so then when she told me that, you know, I was just a complete mess. And then, you know, Blaine took me home. He called his parents right away. His mom's a nurse. So she was there for us. And I don't know if we went to the hospital after that or no, I think we went home. It's kind of blurry now.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm glad that we were there and his parents were home because they really helped with like finances and being there for me and everything. So I went to the actual hospital a couple days later and I didn't have insurance at the time.
Wow.
And so everything was done under the tables with the doctors in Australia. And of course, like my in-laws, they paid for everything out of pocket, like all the scans and stuff that I need to get done. And then pretty much the doctors told me that like, you need to go back to America and get treatment and be with your family and go to Mayo Clinic. And they just kept saying like Mayo Clinic. And so I was like, okay, well then my father-in-law, he and my mother-in-law, they booked me a ticket like 3 days later back to America. And I'll go back to like, you know, when we broke the news to my parents.
Yeah.
But yeah, so everything just kind of happened really fast. And the doctors over there, they gave me enough medications to like get me through the next couple of days until I can go see the doctor. But I had to be like on a steroid, a blood thinner, and something else.
How advanced was it when you caught it?
They said it was stage 4. So that sounds really scary, but each cancer has like their own stages. But, you know, the doctor did tell me, she was like, out of all the cancers, like this is the one that is like the most curable.
Oh, okay.
So, but, you know, like.
Still sucks.
Any cancer
still cancer.
Sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
still
cancer
sucks.
But like, you know, that was a little promising. And I was like, okay. But yeah, so that night I was like, I can't tell my parents. Like, you have to call my parents. And so laying on the phone with my dad, because, you know, it was a lot easier to, you know, not a lot easier, but, you know, easier to tell him than my mom.
Yeah.
I felt like. No, harder to tell him than my mom.
Yeah.
And so when he told my dad, like, my poor dad.
Yeah.
He's a big teddy bear.
Yeah.
You see him, like, he's like this big macho, like, Mexican dude. But, like, back in his younger days, he was like a stud.
Yeah.
Like, nothing faced him. But as soon as Blaine told him that I had cancer, he, like, just started bursting out into tears.
Yeah.
And I started crying. And I was like, oh, my God. And then, you know, my mom was in the other room. And I'm like, you can't just get up and, like, bring her the phone. So I had to hang up with him, call my mom. And then my mom, she answered. And then Blaine told her. And she was just like, okay, tell me what I need to do. Like,
Wow.
She's like ready to go to war.
Yeah, like literally, like what do I like? You guys do what you need to do over there, and I'll just get what I need to like do over here.
Yeah.
So my mom started getting on it like right away, and then I think like my sister or someone like posted about my news, and then I just got so much like people like so many people like reaching out to me and so much love and support and like. I'll never forget that. Like, I actually wrote down, like, every person's name in, like, my little journal. And, like, I just wanted to, like, say thank you and blah, blah, blah. So, but, yeah. So, everyone that has been, like, a part of this journey, like, I'm still, like, entirely grateful for.
Yeah.
Try not to cry.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
But it was, like, very eye-opening at that time. Like, oh, my God. Like, I have so much support from people. Like, I have to get through this. So,
yeah.
But, yeah. So, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
So yeah, we arrived in America. I think it was like the last day of April. And then literally I had an appointment at Mayo Clinic the next day. So I was like super jet lagged. Like it was like 30 hours of flying. Like it was insane.
Were the Australian doctors in touch with the U.S. doctors at the time?
No.
So it was kind of like a fresh
literally
start.
Like they gave me my paperwork and everything that they did, and then just like sent me on my way with like my medications.
Wow.
And, yeah, I don't remember like the guy that was interning, but it's like the doctor that that helped me. His name is Dr. Dominic Pepperell, and I actually went back to go see him when I moved back to Australia just to like say hi and
That's
like
cool.
thank you and stuff. So, but yeah, so I went to Mayo Clinic and. The doctor there, I don't really remember his name, but, like, he was kind of, like, bashing the doctors in Australia. And I didn't like that. And, you know, he was kind of giving me false hope and saying, like, they should have never diagnosed you with something like that. Like, you're too young to, like, you know, be diagnosed with cancer. And, like, this could be, like, valley fever or, like, something else. And so, you know, me being young and, like, oh, my God, I might not have cancer. I might not go through chemo. Might not have to lose my hair. Like, all these things were, like, going through my head.
Yeah.
And just to, like, find out. And, like, he comes in, he looked like a little dog with a tail in between his leg to, like, you know, break the news, like, oh, it's cancer.
So you went through that whole thing again.
Literally, like, gave me false hope.
Yeah.
And nothing against, like, the doctors at Mayo Clinic, but, like, that one specifically, like, he should have never bashed the doctors in Australia.
Name him.
I know. I wish I could. I'm just kidding.
So
long ago.
so was there a delay? Was there a time gap from the time he bashed the doctors and gave you false hope to the time he said, hey, they're right? How much time was it? How much of a gap was that?
Literally, I was sitting in the chair for like 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
I'm just sitting there thinking like all the good things.
Yep.
And then he comes in. I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
Or like you just like have told me that I had cancer and then like gave me false hope like that.
He just kept his mouth shut.
Yeah.
Literally.
Until he knew. Yeah.
So from May to June 5th. June 5th was when I had my first chemo. It was so hard to get in with any doctors. So, you know, it was a bunch of like, you know, who did we know? Like, what doctor could get us in? Like, my sister, she has a really good friend who is a naturopath doctor, and her name is Dr. Shahzad Arona, and she referred me to a naturopath doctor, Dr. Dan Rubin, and he's up in Scottsdale. So while I was going through chemo, I was also going to a naturopath and getting, you know, like vitamin IVs like after every treatment. So like that played a really big part in my journey as well. So I got to see him, and then finally I got in. I'm trying to think who helped me. I think her name was Diane Paradise. She was one of my sister's friends, but she gave me the referral to go to Ironwood. And then you know who else? Oh my God, I'm freaking blanking. She trains at your academy. She was like really into like.
Is it Melissa?
Yes.
Yeah.
Melissa
Veslovsky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Melissa. Sorry, Melissa. But yeah, she helped as well. So, you know, trying to get in with like the best doctors, like it was almost nearly impossible. But because I had some people kind of helping and like referrals and stuff, I was able to get in with Ironwood up on Shea and Tatum. Yeah. And so, no, Scottsdale and Tatum.
Oh, Scottsdale and Tatum. Okay.
And so, yeah, I had my first chemo on June 5th, and that was just a very long, excruciating day. Like, I think I was there for like 8 hours.
What's chemo like? What is it like? Tell me the process. Like, what do you have to do? I know it's like every time I see like a friend going through it, it's like they're sitting in a chair and they're reading a book and they're getting fed this IV. Yeah. So what does that room feel like? What does it smell like? Like
it's
what
so
is
cold.
Yeah.
It's so cold, but luckily I had like a nice view.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because the view was facing the mountains.
Nice.
I don't know which mountains they were, but you think so?
Yeah.
Over
or
there?
Scottsdale? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of next to Oso. That Oso over there on Scottsdale.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
Shea.
we definitely be McDowell's then.
Yeah. So I had like a nice view. But yeah, you're sitting like in a recliner, and then you know, it's just a very long process of like the nurses checking on you, and then
the landscapers here, the dogs are going crazy, so we're just gonna have to deal with that.
No, it's fine. But yeah, and so pretty much with the type of chemo that I had, it was 4 different drugs. Don't ask me what they are, but it's ABVD, and you know, it was just like, I don't even know how to explain it, but like whenever they like injected you with like a new drug, like you just feel like this coldness like going through your body. And then all you can think about is just like, oh my God, like these drugs are literally killing every cell in my body. Yeah. And so, you know, it was very emotional like the first couple of times I got chemo, and then after that it was just, you know, all right, just give it to me already. Like,
yeah.
Because I knew it was working. I knew it was going to help me get through this. And so, but yeah, it kind of burned too. Yeah. The drugs definitely burned.
Did you meet anybody in that room that was going through the same thing you were going through, like in the chemo room, that you kind of kept in touch with or talked to or anything like that?
So I did meet older people. Like, I don't remember their names, but unfortunately they ended up passing away. Oh, okay. But, you know, there were some awesome people that I did get to meet, and, you know, they really did help me, like, get through that as well. But because I was there for, like, 4 or 5 hours at a time, and then I had to go back every 2 weeks, it was always, like, I always had it on a Friday, so I can have Saturday and Sunday to like recover.
Yeah.
And then it was always like my mom, Blaine, and dad that would be there, and then they would kind of like swap out.
That's cool.
And so my mom, she would always pack like yummy snacks, and I had like my big jug of water. I drank a lot of water.
Yeah.
Just to like kind of flush everything out.
Yeah.
And then the following week is when I would have my IV. So I was like in and out of the doctor's offices like a lot.
Yeah.
After your session, like, were you like completely drained? Like, how did you feel afterwards?
Well, so after the first chemo, like my body went into shock. And because it was June 5th, it's hot as hell outside.
Yep.
I had body chills. And
Wow.
so I was like literally like shaking. And so I just remember like I got home and I was so lethargic and I was so cold. And I just remember like Blaine just like holding me and like giving me like body heat and like, just keeping me warm.
I remember you posting about that.
Really?
I remember you posting it. Yeah. Something along the same lines. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, it's just crazy. Like what those drugs do to your body.
Yeah.
Just like complete shock. But yeah, so like then I always tell people like, if you get diagnosed with cancer, like you need to like buy a vape, because smoking weed or like vaping or whatever, it like helped my entire journey 100%. Like,
how so?
Well, one, I didn't have an appetite and I felt nauseous all the time. So, like instead of them, giving me all these prescription drugs to like, help me my appetite or whatever, I just smoked weed.
Yeah.
And because, I've been smoking for a while now.
We lost another listener. Mom, sorry. Sorry, Mom.
It's recreational use, I swear.
Yeah.
But I'm a big advocate for it, and it did help me.
Yeah.
And so I actually have some people right now that are going through treatment, and I'm like, you need to buy this vape, and you need to like start doing this as soon as you start to feel nauseous after treatment. And like, I'll get into that in a second.
Sure.
But yeah, so I had like this badass vape. And like my dad being from like a small town in Guadalupe, you either make it or you become a druggie. And so weed for him was like such a big deal.
Yeah.
And so he was always so against it.
Yeah.
But as soon as I was diagnosed, he was like, we need to do whatever it takes to make you feel better. And I'm like, okay. And so literally after treatment, I'd be like lighting up my vape, smoking in the back of his truck. Like they literally let me do whatever I wanted to get me to feel better.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it was kind of cute in a way. Like after treatment, it was like kind of our thing, like to go eat breakfast afterwards and then like, go to the movies or do something, So it was kind of like always like a little adventure. So it was nice.
So you talked about doing your chemo every other week on Friday so that you have the weekend to recover. Tell me about the day after chemotherapy. What's that like?
Lazy. I didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
But actually during the time of, my treatment, I was still going to the gym a lot.
Okay.
So like Blaine was a big gym guy. And so we would just go super late at night when like no one was there.
Yeah.
And because my sleep schedule was so like off, we would go out to eat a lot and then, kind of just rest and chill during the day. And then we would go to the gym after when no one was there and just like go to the pool, go to the sauna, So I was still like very active when I was going through treatment. And then, after he went back to Australia, like I got a job at Fight Ready, like super part-time.
I remember that. Yeah.
But we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
And then I was still going to school. So I was working, going to school, and then, I had treatment. And I was still trying to like hang out with my friends and do stuff. Like I really didn't want it to like affect my life too much.
Yeah.
But there was some times where I was just like, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Was it something like because of the chemo, the energy was just low, or is it just something like you felt maybe alone, or you just wanted to be away from people? You were kind of, I hate to use the word depression, but I mean, I just think of like how I would feel. I'd be a disaster.
Yeah. Well, I know there was a time like in July. Oh, and then so during chemo, you have the option to get like a port.
Okay.
And so I got my first port actually got infected.
Oh no.
With staph. And so there was a time in July that I was like hospitalized for like a whole week.
Yeah.
And so they had to remove that port. I had a PICC line. And then once that was all good and healed, then I got my second port that worked so much better. So I actually have like a gnarly ass scar.
Wow.
Yeah. Not happy about that.
So were you able to treat it like normally, or because of the chemo, was there something special they had to do?
Yeah. So because before every chemo, they have to check your blood. They have to do blood work to make sure that you're even like a good candidate to like have chemo that day. So they actually pushed back my chemo a couple weeks until that was like good and all cleared up. So
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to think what I was saying. What was the question?
No, I was just asking. Like because of the staph infection.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously I was depressed during that time. Like, you know, I'm just laying there, and like by this time, like I've lost so much weight because like I didn't want to eat in the hospital. Like I looked like skin and bones. It's really sad. But what really made me sad during that time was that music festival, Tomorrowland, was happening, you know, during the time that I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
So, like, I was, like, really bummed because, like, you know, literally a year ago, I was, like, having the time of my life, partying, dancing, like, having fun. So,
it's kind of like the anniversary of your symptoms, huh?
Literally. And so I think that was, like, the only, like, lowest point. But I did try to keep, like, a good positive mindset throughout the whole thing. And you know, the doctors did say, like, I have to put my life on hold for 6 months, 7 months at this time. But, you know, just give them 6 months of just, you know, going through this, and then I can be back to living my best little life.
Wow.
And so I just kept telling myself, like, this is going to pass, it's going to pass. And, like, the prognosis was, like, you know, getting better each treatment. And I think I was actually, like, considered cured, even though I don't like using that word. But, you know, I was good to go, like, after, like, the 4th treatment.
Wow.
Okay.
And so by this time, I already lost my hair.
Yeah.
So it really didn't matter. But I asked the doctor, I'm like, do I have to continue treatment even though, like, I'm good to go? And he's like, yeah, like, we're going to finish out the rest of the rounds, like, just to make sure it's, like, effective.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was like, God damn it.
So I mean, look, I got 2 questions, but first I want to go back to the doctors in Australia. You said they did a lot of stuff under the table to help you.
Yeah.
How did that work? I mean, obviously you're going to a hospital talking to doctors who don't know you, right? Like, what was it like? How was that relationship develop? Or they're like, yeah, we're going to help you until we get you to Mayo Clinic?
To be honest, I don't remember. Like, honestly, like, appointments and everything like that, it's kind of a blur to me just because I let, like, my mother-in-law kind of take over and, like, my parents. And so I don't remember, like, what they did. I just remember, like, it could have been a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And so you had mentioned that you didn't have insurance. So how was the chemotherapy being paid for here?
So my mom, bless her heart, but she ended up canceling my insurance when I, you know, went away because I looked healthy. You know, she didn't want to have to pay for insurance, and I get it. Like, nothing against her.
Well, it's expensive.
It's very expensive.
It's crazy expensive, yeah.
But I'm very fortunate. I don't have any bills. I don't have any hospital bills.
Beautiful.
Like, everything was paid for. But yeah, so I got on any insurance that I could. That Mayo was the one that helped me get on an insurance.
Oh, good.
And then I ended up getting access. So, and then because everyone's so amazing and, like, all the donations and GoFundMe, like, that really helped out, like, paying for my natural path, like my IVs and everything. So, yes, I didn't have to pay for much out of pocket.
Good.
I'm very fortunate about that.
Yeah, you had a lot of support.
That's
awesome.
support. So
yeah. So how did the naturopath treatments? How did that help you? I mean, you were doing vitamin treatments and stuff like that.
And I was also taking, like, a lot of supplements too.
Okay.
Which I don't even remember what supplement, like, but I had, like, this binder, and, you know, it listed everything that I needed for, like, my heart and, you know, like, vitamin D and just all types. I don't even remember what I was taking. I was just taking it.
Yeah.
Whatever might help, right?
Whatever.
Yeah. So were you feeling better? I mean, as they said, your 4th treatment, you're quote unquote cured, but they wanted to finish. How many more treatments did you do?
So a total of 6 rounds. So I did, like, it was 6 rounds, but I had to go 12 times.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So okay.
But yeah, so
yeah.
My last chemo was November 23rd of 2015. So
Wow.
I got diagnosed April 23rd of 2015, and then my last chemo was November 23rd. So, like, 23 is, like, very sentimental to me for, like, other reasons too. But yeah.
Michael Jordan, is that one of them?
Michael Jordan, but 23, like, was the best year of, like, you know, it was the year that I got cured.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of traveling, moved back to Australia. You know, that's when, like, at the time, Blaine and Gate, like, proposed to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, 23 is very sentimental.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So do they have to like follow up with you like a year later to, like, redo blood tests, make sure, like, it doesn't come back? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So now that it's been so long, it's almost going to be 7 years now. So I just go back once a year.
Okay.
So I just go back for, like, my annual visit.
Okay.
I haven't even gone back to, like, the cancer place yet because COVID.
Yeah.
And so they didn't really want any like unnecessary appointments, just like people that are going there for treatment. So
Yeah.
I just have like a GP now that I just do like my annual blood work.
Great.
And then she sends it to them.
Okay.
So what was the day? I mean, everybody talks about the remission date, right? How was that? Was that November as well, where they said thumbs up?
It was actually in August.
August of the following year.
Yeah, August. Sometime in August. I think it was August 14th.
Okay.
2015.
Wow.
I'm really good at dates.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm really impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget everything. There's no way I'd remember all those dates.
Yeah, but I want to talk about my fundraiser.
Let's talk about your
Yeah.
fundraiser.
My fundraiser. 'Cause
Yes.
that was the best day ever.
Yeah.
I have like 5 top days, and that was definitely one of like
The one at
best
Fight
days.
Ready?
Mhm.
We were there. Were we?
I was out of town. I remember when it would
I
happen.
was there.
And I couldn't make it. I'm a loser.
Your loss. was
I
the
know.
best day
I
ever.
know.
Yeah, let's
Just
talk
kidding.
about that.
But yeah, so as soon as I got diagnosed, Paul and Leslie was like on top of it. They like knew what they wanted to do to like help me, and so that's when they got with Jim Wade and Dave Zoney, who's the owner of Fight Ready.
Yeah.
And they were so sweet and so nice to let us have this fundraiser there. But yeah, that was Sunday, June 14th. And it was just like a very like emotional, like intense day. Like I'm just like, I don't even know like half the people that were there, but like I'm so entirely grateful for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a wonderful day.
Yeah.
And I look back at the videos, you know, because the news people came.
Yep. I remember that.
Oh, I
Yep.
do remember that.
Oh my God, I got choked up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just such a different person now than I was. Like, I was just so scared and so vulnerable, and like I didn't know what was like the road like ahead. And so like you can definitely like hear like in my voice
Yep.
like how scared I was.
Yeah.
And then, you know, being kind of like stage fright and like in front of like the camera, it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that was literally one of my best days.
That's awesome. I remember going to that it was basically a giant fundraiser, and there were so many people there. And what I always tell people is you know, it's important to be part of a community.
For sure.
Whatever the community is, right? If you're in a race cars, be a part of a race car community. Jiu-Jitsu is a giant community because for some reason, just because you do the same activity, people rally.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
And it doesn't matter who you are, right? I mean, I see it all the time. You know, when we have fundraisers all the time, and people, I mean, like instructors that have schools that don't even, I hate to say this, they don't allow their students to train in other places. They come.
Yeah.
And they bring all their students, and everybody donates, you know, whether it's time or money or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the bigger ones I've seen.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I always tell people like jiu-jitsu will always have like a special place in my heart. Just because I saw like the jiu-jitsu community come together for me, for Xandra, you know, for Ashley. And then, you know, I've been kind of following this guy who trains out of Fight Sports. Do you guys know him? Ben Kunkel? No?
No.
I don't think so. No.
Well, anyways, I think he was training for like a really big tournament and he ended up getting paralyzed.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
wow.
insane. And so they've been doing a lot of like fundraising, and like people from like all over have been, I'm sure you've seen
I think I do know now that you mentioned that.
But like I've
Fill in
been
the context.
following like his recovery, but it's just amazing to see how many people come together to, you know, help someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always tell people like that's why I freaking love jiu-jitsu. It's just like one, it changed me.
Yeah.
And then two, the people that I get to meet and what it did for me when I was going through like that scary time in my life. So
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about your comeback. Your
Come
comeback.
back.
So
She's been
you've
here
been
for
out of
years.
jiu-jitsu for a couple years, but you know, traveling,
Yeah.
and then you got sick, and then let's talk about how that happened. How did you decide, you know what, I want to put that belt back on? Because you got your blue belt after remission, right?
2013. No, I actually
Before.
I had it before.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
November 2013.
Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So you got a blue belt,
Mhm.
and you hadn't trained in a little while. I'm not
Yeah.
saying you had an excuse, but you had a hell of an excuse.
Yeah, so obviously I didn't want to be training during that time.
Yeah.
But even I didn't really start training jiu-jitsu until last year. That's
Yep.
when I like really got back into it.
Yeah.
But no, so after I was told that I'm in remission, I was like, all right, I'm packing my bags and I'm moving back to Australia.
Yeah.
And so I was, you know, that was November. I moved back to Australia February
Oh wow.
of 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like me taking the year off to like get back into the swing of things, you know, get back to training and, you know, just kind of feeling good.
Yeah.
And not to mention like my hair, the growth, like my hair growth at the time was just like out of control. Like, you know, like I have my dad's hair and he had an afro growing up.
Yeah.
And so my hair was growing back like super curly and like super afro. So it was like a very awkward time. Like, but you know, that sounds so stupid. And like, I always tell people, like, especially like women, because we care so much about like our appearance and the way, like, especially like our hair too. Like when I got diagnosed, like I immediately just thought about like the way I look. And I feel so stupid for like ever even like feeling that way about myself. And, you know, I got to have so much fun when my head was shaved and like wearing the wigs that I did. Yeah. And I like encourage people, like, you know, hair is just hair. Like that shit's gonna grow back. Yeah. Like, especially if like a girl's going through chemo, like go and try a different hairstyle, like try different wigs. Like, you know, you can be a different person every single time. Like, it's fun.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so I went through like this awkward like hair stage when I was living over there. But besides that, like I was traveling every 3 months out of the country. Yeah. And so that was because of my visa, and I got to do a lot of fun things.
That's cool. That's cool.
And I did try a jiu-jitsu gym, but it was like very short-lived. I'm like, this doesn't feel like Paul's. I don't like it.
In Australia? Was it Australia? Okay. What was that like?
It was interesting. Well, so at the gym that I was training at, Roar Fitness, it was actually like a startup there. So it was like a blue belt and a brown belt at the time. Okay. So I was like the only like blue belt girl. So I don't know. I should have went to like a different academy to like kind of get that feel. But when you like train at Paul Nava's, it's kind of hard.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to beat, man.
It's kind of hard to find that like, you know, that family. That family, like, you know.
Well, especially how close you are with Paul and Leslie. Yeah. Yeah, I know. When I left Paul's to start my own academy, I don't want to say it felt dirty, but the mats at Paul's are sacred to me. You know what I mean? They're sacred ground to me. So being on other mats, even though they're mine, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm part of owner. It's still hard. Yeah. So I can imagine going to a whole other academy. So that's got to be a little weird.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, so I stopped doing that and just started like just weightlifting and stuff. And then did some traveling, and then my visa was up, and so then that's when, you know, Blaine and I were like, all right, well, what are we gonna do? Either like, you know, we kind of have to get married or like kind of go our ways, and then that's when we figured out that we were gonna get married.
Wow, cool. Okay, did you get married in Australia?
No, we moved back. So like I had to do like the whole like fiance visa. Yep. Did that, got approved. So like the day that you land in the States, you have 90 days to get married. Oh wow. So it's literally like that TV show, like 90 Days. Not as crazy. Yeah. But yeah, so it was like very intense for like the first 90 days. Yeah. Trying to figure out like when's a good time, like when can your family come, when can, like, you know. Yeah. So just planning that. But yeah, so then once I moved back from Australia, which was March of 2017, just, you know, trying to get back into like living at the state, like in the States, getting situated. And so I was still not training jiu-jitsu, but I always knew I wanted to go back. Yeah. And then I started doing CrossFit.
Oh, okay. All right.
I know. Everyone hates CrossFit. But I give so much thanks to CrossFit because it literally changed my body. Like, I am so much stronger now. Yeah. Going and like, so doing that for like 2 years and then getting back into jiu-jitsu, like, it's like a total game changer. Yeah. Like, I feel like a freaking tank.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
But like in a good way. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Now, does your husband do jiu-jitsu?
So I guess I should just say this, but we're not together at the moment.
Oh, I'm sorry to say.
It's okay. Yeah, no, it's only, it's fine. But yeah, Blaine tried jiu-jitsu at Paul's. Okay. Paul really wanted him to go. Yeah. And someone like went hard on him and like almost messed up his knee. And so he was like kind of turned off. I'm like, who did that?
I could name 3 people that it might be.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. No. So
Brandon Walker.
No, I don't think he was there, but yeah, so he was kind of turned off. He wanted to get into it, but low key, like, jiu-jitsu is kind of like my thing.
Yeah, so, that's cool.
Like,
yeah. That's cool.
And, you know, I did date someone, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was training at Paul's as well, and it just.
A little awkward.
It was a little awkward. Yeah. And so I'd rather this be my thing, and then if, you know, whoever I end up with or whatever, they want to train jiu-jitsu, like, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
This is like my little happy place. That's going to be like the rules, like, if, you know, it ever becomes, you know.
That's good. That's good. So tell me about what you're doing now. You know, obviously you were really active when other, you know, jiu-jitsu students were going through their, you know, cancer journeys. Are you still mentoring people? Are you still reaching out to people? Are you still doing that kind of stuff, staying active?
Yeah, so obviously, like, if anyone comes to me, like, I'm here all the time. But, you know, if I see someone that is, you know, just got diagnosed with cancer, they're going through, like, a hardship, like, I will reach out. You know, I do want to be there for people, like, how they are for me. But, like, you obviously don't want to, like, overstep your boundaries.
Of course.
So, like,
yeah.
you know, I do make it known, like, hey, like, I'm here for you if you need anything. So, but yeah, I'm always there. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. Like, I will be there for anyone who needs someone to talk to.
Yeah. How does that make you feel? Because, like, I can imagine you kind of get, like, maybe PTSD from, like, that whole experience.
Honestly, it just, I don't know. Like, I always tell people, like, I'm still trying to, like, find, like, my purpose in life.
Yeah.
And, like, I was obviously, like, given, like, a second chance.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel like my purpose here is to, like, help people in any way that I can. If it's, you know, just needing someone to talk to or hang out, like, I want to be there for people any way that I can. Just like how people were there for me.
Yeah.
So, but yes.
Well, what would you say to young women or girls that are that have been recently diagnosed, that are going through, you know, I guess you would call it like appearance issues, like in their head? What would you say to those girls? Like, what can they look forward to? How can they cope with that kind of stuff?
So I would definitely say, like, especially with, like, what I went through, because I was so, like, obsessed with the way that I look. When your looks are, like, stripped away, especially, like, your hair, whatever, you have to find other ways to, like, make yourself, like, be known out there. And so I feel like when I went through what I went through, like, my personality has, like, really blossomed. And I had to be more than just looks. And so I feel like my personality has definitely changed over the years. And, you know, it just kind of, like, humbles you.
Yeah.
And so I do want to, like, tell people, like, you have to be more than just the way that you look. You have to be more than that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, you just have to be a good person.
Yeah.
Good person, be positive. Just know, like, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, if you do lose your hair, like, there are wigs out there. It's fun.
Yeah.
It honestly is fun. Like, I miss it.
What was the favorite wig? What was your favorite one?
The one that I used to wear all the time, I had, like, a little short bob. And it was, like, this really pretty, like, dark purple. And then I had, like, this fiery red. And then when I worked at Fight Ready, it was really cute because, like, all the kids would have come up to me and they're like, what wig are you going to wear tomorrow? I don't know, whatever matches my outfit. You know what I mean? So
the kids love that, huh?
I had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, so.
Yeah.
You could still wear wigs?
Yeah.
No, I can't. I tried putting one on, and I had, like, this, I don't know how to braid, you know, because you have to braid it a certain way. Like, I had, like, this bulb. And so I'm like, yeah, it's not going to happen. But anyway, so now that, so I'll just get into, like, the gist of things. So Blaine moved back to Australia last June, and then I realized that, like, I wasn't going to move back with him in October of last year. And so I've been kind of going through, like, that process. Well, like, I've pretty much taken, like, this entire year off to kind of get back into, like, the swing of things. Yeah. And so I've just been kind of marking things off my bucket list and traveling a bit. And, you know, anyone that does jiu-jitsu, especially females, it's mostly for females. I've actually went to a camp last April in the Bahamas, and the camp is with Grappling Getaways.
Okay.
And the people who put it together are April Parks and Katie Hooven. And so they do pretty much, like, jiu-jitsu camps, like, all over. Yeah. Sometimes they're, like, international. Sometimes they're, like, in the States.
Women's only?
So the one in the Bahamas was co-ed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was a lot of fun. So I definitely, like, want to, like, you know, encourage people, like, especially, like, women that do jiu-jitsu, like, just go out there and, like, you know, go to a camp and like, meet other people. And so that's something that I really wanted to do this year, was, like, I want to meet people that, you know, do jiu-jitsu and, like, travel and, like, go train at other academies and stuff. So I'm actually going to Seattle tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And it's a couple that I met in the Bahamas. Ty, he's a photographer at a lot of
I know Ty.
tournaments.
Yeah.
And then
You've met him. They were just in town for the Phoenix Open.
They were staying with me.
Ty and Katie.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Ty and Katie, yeah.
And so, and then Katie, she competes a lot, like at a lot of big tournaments. So I'm actually going to be staying with them until Wednesday. So get some training done out there.
Yeah, and how did you find the people that do the
camps?
Yeah, the camps.
So I think it was so I know I was working the Phoenix Open, and I was just like, scrolling, and I follow Elizabeth Clay.
Oh yeah.
And she's one of like the instructors there, and so she was like posting about it, and I'm like, ooh, what's this? Like in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And so, I was like, I looked into it. I'm like, I don't know. So I was like kind of hesitant about like, should I do it? And because this was going to be like my first time traveling like internationally by myself.
Yeah.
Because Blaine was my my travel buddy.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like a big deal. And so, I always believe like if you are thinking about something a lot, you should just do it.
Do it. Yeah.
And so I saw it and I was like, they only have like 4 spots left. Like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And so it was through her post on Instagram, like her Instagram story, that I found these ladies, and they are so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was literally the best time ever. And, I actually have 2 more camps with them. So I'm going to Boston in 2 weeks, and we're going to be in Salem.
Wow.
And it's like a Halloween theme and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And then in December, Leslie's actually going with me to New York.
Oh wow,
cool.
cool.
Mm-hmm. So then we're going to
Wow.
go to Syracuse. So
Nice.
I'll be freezing my ass off.
Yeah, but Syracuse is beautiful.
Yeah.
You've been?
Yeah, it's beautiful
That's
up
where
there. Yeah.
that's where April's from. So she just opened up her own academy with her husband, and yeah, so I'm really excited to check it out.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are they going to ever do anything on the West Coast?
I think they're actually trying to do something in Seattle.
Okay.
So where Ty and Katie, I
Yep.
think so. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you had mentioned oh gosh, where was I going to go with this? I knew
I know we've been like.
I'm bringing you back. I'm bringing you back. Okay, I'm back. So we were talking about your comeback.
Yes.
Okay, you're no longer a blue belt. You got your purple belt, right?
Yeah.
When did you get your purple belt? You're good with dates. I can't.
This-
I remember. I was there.
This year in March.
Yeah.
I've only been training like a year.
Yeah.
But Paul thought I was ready, so I'm like, okay.
There you go. Yeah.
It was a fun weekend, so it's very
Yeah.
exciting. There's a lot of people there. Yeah, I still can't believe I'm a purple belt. Purple's my favorite color, so
There you go.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, I loved it because it kind of like, I don't know, it kind of like, I don't know if it gave us closure or it closed a loop or it
Mhm.
felt like, I don't know. We always talk about coming full circle, but it was really great to see because I was there when you got you started before me, so you
Mhm.
already had stripes on your white belt, but I was there when you got your blue belt,
Mhm.
and then I was there when you got your purple. So I'm really, yeah, I'm very proud of that. So
Thank
that's really
you.
cool. Yeah,
Purple's my favorite color.
yeah. So
hang on to that one for a while.
so
Just
so
hang on to it.
yeah. So for people that want to reach out or share their story with you,
Mhm.
where can they find you on or follow you, right? In
Mhm.
your journey through all these camps that you're going to? How can they find you
Yeah.
on social media?
So my Instagram name is Julissa Lizette, and then just find me on Facebook, Julissa Lizette. That's actually my middle name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's your last name?
Well, it's Day.
Day. Okay.
But my maiden name's Ramirez.
Ramirez.
So.
I always thought it was
I
Lizette. So lost
Yeah.
more listeners out there. Her family's like, click. Listen to this crap. But hey, listen, thank you for sharing your story.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
so glad you were able to do this, and
Yes.
yeah, you were on the list of people that I want to. You were on the whiteboard. You're not on there because we got you in. But no, if anybody got anything out of this podcast, I highly recommend that you follow Julissa. Follow us on Instagram. We're at the BJJ Foxcast, and we're also have a fan page on Facebook. But you got anything, Tojo? Anything to close with?
No, that was great. I mean, it's a good story. I mean, cancer touches a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about, especially
Yeah.
their own journey. So it's
Yeah.
really nice
For
to
sure.
hear.
I know,
Yeah.
and it was so nice because I feel like the longer it goes on, like the longer I'm in remission, I'm forgetting things, and I don't want to forget this because it's such a big, important thing that happened in my life that I just want to always remember it. So
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. I was actually kind of shocked that you asked me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, I remember because it was it was a Thursday at Paul's, and then you're like, would you want to go on? I was like, what? And like, no one wants to listen to me. Like, and then I was like, wait, no, I want to go on.
You got some stuff to say, man. You definitely have some stuff to say.
But I mean, if it's anything I can like leave on this note, it's just like, I just want people to like live their life, you know, just be a positive influence in people's like life, and you just never know who like you're going to touch. So
Yeah.
that's just what if I can leave any mark, I want it to be that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's a beautiful way to put it. You know, I tell people, you know, compete every day because you never know who's watching, and you're gonna affect somebody. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
Of course.